Today, in our 10th installment of an Introduction to Theology, we're looking at the Apostles' Creed. We've just read that Jesus would be born of the Virgin Mary. He would suffer under Pontius Pilate. He would be crucified, dead, and buried. On the third day, he would rise again. He would ascend into heaven and be seated at the right hand of God. The very next line is what we're going to look at today. From thence, from there, he will return. He will come to judge the living and the dead. Now, there are two main statements. First of all, the fact that Jesus will come again. He came the first time, walked among us. He will come again. In the Old Testament, we see prophecies of a victorious king. Those prophecies will be fulfilled the second time he comes. In the Old Testament, we see prophecies of a king who died. Those were fulfilled the first time that he came. Now, there's a lot of confusion about Jesus' second coming. You may have heard of concepts like pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib. You may have heard of premillennialists, post-millennialists, amillennialists. You may have heard of preterists, partial preterists. All of these are an attempt to relate three main sections of the New Testament that talk about Jesus' second coming. First of all, in Jesus' own words, we find in Matthew 24 and 25, Mark chapter 13, passages that are referred to as the little apocalypse. Then you get Paul's teaching and John's teaching in their epistles. And then you get the book of Revelation. Rather than try to explain all of the different viewpoints, I'll leave that to you to investigate if you want. The Bible simply says four basic things about Jesus' second coming. The Bible does say, 1 Thessalonians from 4:13 to 18, that Jesus will descend from heaven and he will catch up. He will rapture both the living and the dead who have believed in him. Now, the rapture does not occur in the book of Revelation. It occurs in Jesus' words. Jesus says he'll come again. He'll appear in the clouds. And then Paul and John in their epistles say that Jesus will return and there will be a rapture. We'll be caught up. That's the basic teaching here. We will be rescued by Jesus. The second thing that the epistles say is that many antichrists will come. 1 John 2:18 to 27 doesn't talk about one antichrist. It talks about many antichrists. Now, in the book of Revelation, it talks about a figure called the beast. Many equate the beast to the antichrist. That's not necessarily so. It indeed may be. But the fact of the matter is, the book of John says there are many who stand opposed to Christ. And the time of Jesus' second coming will be characterized by those who oppose him. The third thing that Scripture teaches actually comes from Jesus' teaching. In Matthew 24 and 25, he speaks at length about when he will return. And the one thing that comes across again and again in what Jesus says is, be ready. You don't know when it's going to happen. It will come when you least expect it. Be ready. Be prepared. Paul echoes that. He talks about Jesus' coming and he says, we must be prepared. John echoes that. Even the book of Revelation talks about how we need to prepare ourselves for his second coming. The fourth thing that Scripture teaches is that when he comes, he will be a judge. This, in fact, is mentioned in the Apostles' Creed. From thence he shall come to judge. In the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 31 to 46, he gets two groups of people, the sheep on his right hand, the goats on his left. He looks at the sheep and he said, you cared for me. You gave me water, you gave me food, you gave me clothing, you visited me. They said, when? When? We weren't aware. He said, if you've done it to others, you've done it to me. And then he looks at the goats on his left. He says, you didn't give me water, you didn't give me food, you didn't give me clothing, you didn't visit me. And he said, when? He said, if you didn't do it to others, you have not done it to me either. We'll be judged when Jesus comes again. Now, it's not a bold statement here, but very clearly the judgment between right and wrong implies some form of eternal reward and some form of eternal punishment. This is the only place this is really mentioned in the Apostles' Creed. But indeed, we do believe that those who believe, those who have accepted Christ's free gift of salvation, will be eternally rewarded. And those who rejected his gift of salvation will be eternally punished.